there. Today I'm going to take you through my quick process for making some Foamiran flowers. I don't normally make many flowers, but I needed to make some recently for a card. You can see there how lovely and squishy and soft they are. Very satisfying, very quick, very easy to make. You need some spongy sort of foam. You need a glue gun. You can see I've given it little arrow feet to hold it up. It was very recalcitrant and falling over. I don't normally use my glue gun. I normally use wet adhesive, but the hot glue does dry a lot quicker. You also need some scissors and some flower stamens, and I've got some little dabbers there, some inks, and some little pokey tools, some with balls on the end, but you don't need those. You can just use a utensil that's got a rounded end. I've cut out 2 flowers. This is the one that I've used previously, the larger one, and a smaller one. I've got quite a few flower dies. And you just layer the Foamiran, fold it into 4 and cut 4 at a time. 4 seems to be a pretty good number. And you don't want to get rid of those scraps because sometimes they're big enough for a leaf or a tiny flower. You can see with those 2 dies, this one's got nice cut indentations, the larger one, but the smaller one is just has just the petals, but it's not cut far into the middle. So I use my scissors to lengthen those splits to make the petals a bit more, a bit lengthier, so that they work better on the flower. This foam is so thin it cuts very, very easily. This die cuts the centre out, and I thought at first that was a bit of a problem, but in actual fact it helps me to align the petals. Now you just take each petal one at a time and squidge up each petal. I just pleat it up or fold it up on itself and hold it between my fingers and give it a good roll and a very hard press. You can be quite tough with this as long as you don't actually pull it away from itself and tear it. And you just go around and do each petal the same. Give it a really good tight scrunch with your fingers and roll it on itself backwards and forwards. There's lots of other very detailed videos available using irons and ball tools and all sorts of things, and I'm certainly not going for realism here. I'm just looking for something that looks and acts a little bit like a flower. I'm relying on your brain to tell you that it really is a flower when it's completed. So as I said, the 4 layers seems to be pretty good. You'll notice as I put the petals down, the flowers down, the petals are slowly unwrapping of their own accord, and I don't do any other shaping. Here I've got 2 little tiny ones, and I've scrunched one up already, and I'm about to apply a little bit of colour to the middle of this. This is the same dye as the larger flower, just the smaller version. I just use that for the little bunch in the middle with the stamens. I'm putting on a little bit of yellow, and then some green. The smaller hole in the middle helps to hide that larger hole on the big flowers. It works out okay. You can use it whatever you like to colour these up. You can use chalks, and with this one I just sort of fold them in half and bunch them all together, and then really give them a good winding between your fingers, pressing very hard as I can, and I don't really unwrap it. I find when you're manipulating them, they unwrap of their own accord as much as they need to. Now I'm absolutely hopeless with hot glue. I never use it, but I decided for the purpose of the video it's much quicker drying, and I think on these is fine. I don't like it on cards and journals and things, but for these I think it's fine. It's just that I'm so messy and useless with it. Other people seem to use it with gay abandon and get good results. I guess it's all a matter of practice. I keep pulling at the strands, thinking I'm getting rid of them, and really all I'm doing is creating more. So all I do is just layer them together, offsetting the petals so that they're not all one on top of the other. And just pushing the centre down into the hot glue. This is the fourth one going on. That centre line really helps me line them up. Giving it a bit of a press just around the very centre, not onto the petals much, just to encourage them into that more of a cup shape. Now I'm selecting, I think, 4 of the little stamen, double-ended stamens. You don't need to use these, you can just take a piece of the Foamiran, fold it in half and cut it into thin slithers and glue it in. That looks quite pretty too, but I had the stamens there, and as I rarely use them, I thought I might as well put them in. They look quite pretty with those pearly centres. Putting on the second layer. Trying to get it as offset as I can manage, though it's a bit hard because they're also wonky and out of shape at this stage. You just don't want all the petals aligned so they go together on the flower. Putting that through the centre hole and giving it a good dose of glue in behind to make the 2 layers stick together. And then I'll use the third one of those small flowers just to neaten up that mess at the back. That'll hold everything secure. I can trim off the ends of the stamens. Cobwebs everywhere. I only bought the white Foamiran, so I'm keeping everything pretty monochromatic. This little green piece was in a little packet of samples that the Foamiran supplier, they're called JCraft, and I'll put the links to their website below if anyone's interested. They sent a dear little packet of samples, so I got to see some of the different colours, and that little green one just fitted quite nicely as sepals on the back of the flower. So that's the 3 I've made today. And now this is the smaller die, and I haven't used this one before, but I was quite pleased with the outcome. It made quite a nice little flower. I found this one was a little bit more fiddly to twist, and I found I had to really quite pinch it and sort of screw it around a couple of times before my fingers would actually come to grips with it and actually twist it. But I've got pretty arthritic fingers, so I was blaming that, but I think it's just the size and being a little bit cautious because I didn't want to rip those petals off. But it's surprising how malleable this stuff is. Now the 4th one on this, I'm not putting a centre additional petals in this. I'm just using a little bit of pink Memento ink to colour this up. I was wishing afterwards that I'd made it a little darker, more like a peach blossom, but I just went with soft pink. Got a bit speedy there, just to avoid the boring bits. I found this little one stayed together quite well. I'm not sure. It's probably the shape of the petals. It stayed nice and crinkly, whereas the other one tends to smooth out a little. I found when I was playing with it when I first got it that even when I spent time pushing and moulding with the ball tools, it really didn't have a long-lasting effect. It just ended up looking quite the same as these ones that I haven't, and so I speeded up the process. Just putting on that last pink one on the top. There's lots of wonderful videos out there if you're interested, and particularly if you're interested in making more realistic flowers. It's just amazing what people do. I don't have any talent in that respect at all. Here I'm just making a little bit of a cross cut down through the glue and the foam so I can insert the stamens. Just using 3 doubled on this one. And I've got a little wire that I normally use on my spinning wheel to push the thread through, but it's just the right tool for pulling a group of stamens through the flower. Just a piece of soft jewellery wire. Putting a bit of glue around that just to anchor it. This one was quite pretty, quite sort of blossomy. Trimming off the back. And I didn't have anything really suitable for adding to the back to secure or to cover that hole and to make a glue spot. So I just got one of my little, I think it's a 3/4 inch punch, and this stuff doesn't punch terribly well. It does if you've got a sharp punch, but mine was a little blunt, so it didn't matter. It would have been just as easy to simply trim a piece out with my scissors. Just a bit of glue, and then just using that to cover the little blemish at the back and to make it all more secure. And that's about it, giving it a little final push down into the centre. And that's done. Quick and easy. And quite pretty. Just using my lint roller to get rid of some of the debris. And there they are, the 4 finished flowers. And here's a card I made just recently with 3. They're the first 3 that I made on that one. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll talk to you again pretty soon. Bye now.